The fluorescent lights hummed like trapped bees. The air inside Mercy General's trauma bay was too bright, too cold, too full of the smell of antiseptic and copper. A patient, a black man in his 40s, lay on the gurney, his skin ashen, IV line trembling against his wrist. The cardiac monitor bleated irregularly, a mechanical stutter that scraped everyone's nerves raw. Doctor Nolan Pierce pushed through the double doors, his white coat flaring like a flag of command. "Push epinephrine now," he barked. Ava Ellison hesitated. "Doctor, he's in catecholamine shock. His potassium—" I said now. Her gloved hand hovered over the syringe. The other nurses froze. Someone's phone buzzed and was immediately silenced. The patient's chest heaved once, a rattled breath that sounded almost human, almost pleading. "Dr. Pierce, please," she said quietly. "We'll code him if you do that." He turned, face red, under the fluorescent glare. "You think you know better than me." "Nurse, protocol says." The slap cracked through the room like an electrical short. Ava didn't move. Her cheek flamed, the world contracting to the taste of metal and the rhythmic beep, beep, beep of the monitor. No one spoke. The patient's monitor flatlined. Someone young tech, shaking, lunged to hit the code button. Chows erupted, voices overlapping, compressions switch, clear charging. But the electricity didn't bring him back. Pierce threw his gloves in the trash. He was gone when he came in. Then, lower, leaning toward Ava. "Next time, follow orders." The hum of the lights swallowed the silence that followed. Across the bay, the red tally light on a corner security camera blinked twice. Later, the gurney rolled out under a sheet. The scent of saline and sweat lingered. Ava stood by the sink, scrubbing her hands long after they were clean. The water turned pink from where her palm had cracked against her face. She caught her reflection in the metal cabinet door, a distortion in silver. The laurel pin on her uniform looked skewed, crooked, like a lie. Behind her, a young nurse whispered, "He didn't mean it." Ava dried her hands. "Log the incident," she said. The nurse blinked. "Ma'am, time, place, personnel present, all of it. Shouldn't we talk to Dr. Pierce first?" Ava turned. "We will, through the record." The nurse swallowed hard. "You're really going to—" But Ava was already walking away. 2 hours later, in the dim staff lounge, she sat across from Anita Shah from Risk Management. Anita's hair was tied tight, clipboard balanced on her knee. The vending machine flickered behind them, humming out of rhythm. "Ms. Ellison, are you certain you want to file an incident report?" "I'm certain. You understand what that means, Doctors Disciplinary Board. Press involvement. PR review." "I understand." Anita clicked her pen. Sigh hid. "Okay. For the record, what happened?" Ava's eyes drifted to the corner of the room where a small wall camera blinked its dull red eye. "He hit me," she said, "and the patient died." Silence. Anita wrote without looking up. "Do you want to press criminal charges?" "No." "Why not?" "Afa met herchaze." "Because the system doesn't speak that language, but it understands documentation." Anita almost smiled, an exhausted, respectful curve of the lips. "Then we start a chain of custody." She slid a folder across the table. A procedural birth certificate, date, time, witness, evidence ID. Ava signed each line slowly, deliberately. The sound of pen on paper felt louder than the hum of the fridge. At 4:23 a.m., the trauma bay was empty again. Custodians mopped under the same bright lights. One paused, looking toward the camera, then back at Ava. Their eyes met briefly. Something unreadable passed between them. Ava moved to her locker, took out a small brass compass, the one her father had given her when she got into nursing school. The glass was spidered with a thin crack from years of being dropped. She thumbed it once, watching the needle tremble north. Her reflection in the compass glass was warped. 2. At 7:00 a.m. The meeting. Dr. Pierce stood at the head of the table, his tone measured, rational. "I take full responsibility for the outcome," he said, "but there's a context here. The patient was crashing. There wasn't time for debate." Evelyn Hart, the hospital's VP, nodded, lips pressed. "We'll review the footage. For now, let's stay aligned on messaging." Ava sat silently, eyes on the folder in front of her. She could see Pierce's reflection in its glossy cover. The set jaw, the smooth tie, the calm of someone used to being right. He looked straight at her. "Sometimes emotions run high in trauma settings," he said. "People misinterpret." Ava opened the folder, revealing the incident report stamped in red. "Pending investigation." "No one misinterpreted," she said. Pierce smiled thinly. "I suppose we'll let the evidence decide." "Yes," she said, "we will." That night, after 12 hours awake, she returned home. Her small apartment was quiet except for the buzz of the refrigerator and the city breathing beyond the window. She sat at her desk, opened her laptop, and began to write. Incident 47B. Mercy General, Lingar, 14 a.m. Attending, Dr. Nolan Pierce. Event: physical assault, procedural violation, patient fatality. Her hands shook once, then steadied. Outside, a siren wailed and faded into the hum of the night. She reached for the compass, set it beside the keyboard. The cracked glass caught the glow of the monitor, splitting the light into twin fragments, one steady, one trembling. For a long moment, she just watched it, listening to the quiet click of her fingers on the keys. Then she whispered, not to the room but to herself, "Keep the record." At 11:52 p.m., in the security office, a guard reviewed the footage before archiving it. The clip showed a blur of movement, then the slap, then a flash of Ava's stunned face, but the corner angle missed the doctor's full motion. The sound had been muffled by the heart monitor's alarm. "Angle's bad," the guard muttered, marking the file incomplete. He clicked save. The red tally light blinked once before going dark. In another part of the city, Dr. Pierce poured himself a drink. His phone lit up with a message from an unknown number. "Footage circulating. Control it before it controls you." He stared at the screen, then at his own reflection in the window, confident, intact, untouchable. For now, he raised the glass. The ice clinked once, sharp as the sound of a compass cracking. Back in her apartment, Ava lay awake, the city's lights painting faint bars across the ceiling. Her cheek still throbbed where he'd struck her. She thought of the patient's final breath, the quiet before the flatline, and wondered if anyone else had heard it. The compass on the nightstand quivered in the draft from the window. The needle pointed north, steady as pulse. She closed her eyes, not to sleep, but to remember the direction. The conference room smelled like paper and lemon disinfectant. A single red folder sat in the center of the table, edges aligned perfectly with the wood grain, as if order could fix what chaos had undone. Anita Shah adjusted her glasses and clicked the recorder on. "Chain of custody begins at 0700, she said. Her voice was low but clipped, every word clean enough to file. "Evidence includes one security clip. Themes thumpte ilta, 14 a.m., and 5 witness statements. We'll tag this E1 through E5. Ava nodded. She hadn't slept. The skin along her cheek was almost healed now, but the quiet ache under it felt permanent, something bone deep, like memory that refused to fade. Do you have the external drive? Anita asked. Ava slid it across the table. Encrypted. Triple copy. Anita smiled faintly. You're thorough. It's the only way to survive here. She plugged the drive in, the small green light blinked, and the file names scrolled across the screen. Trauma Cam 02, 1414, MP4, Nurse Report 47B, PDF, Witness, PDF. The cursor hovered over the first one. Let's log transfer authorization. Anita said. Name, position, signature. Ava signed. The pen dragged slightly on the paper, her hand stiff. Anita's next line was slower. Custody released to risk management. When it was done, Anita exhaled. Okay. From now on, everything you do, every call, every email might be reviewed. You need to keep records of your own. Journal. Team stamp. Even screenshots. Ava gave a small nod. The system listens only to proof. Downstairs, the PR department was already in crisis mode. Patricia, the communications director, had a headset on and a coffee. The color of tar. We need to control the narrative, she said into her mic. Call it a procedural incident, not an assault. And for God's sake, make sure the donor families hear it from us first. On the other end of the glass, Pierce was shaking hands with a board member. His posture was easy, confident. You'd never guess he'd hit anyone. When Ava walked through, the room quieted. Patricia turned, her smile smooth as silk. Ava, we're all just trying to de-escalate things. You understand? Ava stopped. De-escalate truth. Patricia's smile tightened. Sometimes the truth needs context. Context doesn't change impact. Ava said, You're emotional. Patricia replied softly, Take a few days off. Let HR handle it. Ava glanced at the mirror wall, her own reflection haloed by the ceiling lights, and said, I'll handle it by procedure. Then she walked out. Patricia whispered into her mic again. Flay her profile for review. That afternoon, Anita met her in the archives room, a low, windowless space filled with the hum of servers and the smell of ozone. We need to replicate the video onto a secure drive, Anita said, and we'll need Pierce's authorization to access his account logs. That'll go over like a lead balloon. I'll get it, Ava said. Officially, she didn't answer. Instead, she knelt by the machine, connected a cable, and watched the progress bar inch forward. Copying metadata. Anita murmured. Checksum verified. Timestamp locked. It was the closest thing to prayer they had. At home, Ava opened her laptop and started writing again. Linksy. 12 am. Interview with risk management. Shusut. 30 internal resistance detected in PR. Sherba. 05. External file created with evidence copies. Each line was a heartbeat. Every sentence, a barrier against disappearance. Her father called around 8. I heard about the board review, he said. I'm fine, she said. You're not, he answered. I can stall them. Maybe redirect to peer review committee. Don't. It'll look like protection. He paused. They'll come after you. They already are. Then stop this. Ava, you can't fight an institution. Maybe not, she said, but I can make it record itself. He sighed. God, you sound like your mother. I hope so, she whispered. 2 days later, she was called to HR. The office was all glass and frost transparency as theater. Ms. Ellison, the officer began. We received a complaint about unauthorized data handling. Ava's jaw tightened. By whom? He didn't answer. You're being asked to return the external drive pending review. Anita, seated beside her, leaned forward. That evidence is under active custody protocol. The officer raised a hand. This is a formal instruction. Ava looked at him, then at the frosted glass beyond, where blurred silhouettes watched. Fine, she said. I'll comply if you log it properly. He hesitated. Evidence IDE1, she said flatly. Transfer of possession must be signed by both parties. Thema stumpet. And witnessed. You want it. Write it down. The silence was almost sweet. Finally, he reached for a form. Anita's mouth twitched. That's how you survive here, she murmured later in the hall. That night, Ava checked her phone. 2 missed calls from an unknown number. 1 voicemail. Static. Then a man's voice. Low. Clipped. You're making a mistake. Ms. Ellison. Delete the file. It's better for everyone. She deleted the message, but the sound of it clung to her as she brushed her teeth, as she stood by the window looking down at the streetlights, pulsing in rows. Across the city, in some upper-floor condo, someone else was also watching her name in a search bar, her image on a thumbnail frozen mid-blink. The next morning, Anita handed her a memo. Patricia's department is pushing for an internal narrative. A misunderstanding due to fatigue. It'll go live in 48 hours unless we act. Then we act, Ava said. How? Procedurally. They spent the day in the audit room reviewing digital logs. Every login, every file access. Pierce's account showed 2 entries at 03:12 and 03:18 a.m. after the patient had died. Unauthorized data deletion attempt. Ava circled the lines in red. There's your context, she said. Anita looked at her, half a smile breaking through. You know, if we keep this up, you'll never work in peace again. Peace is overrated. At 9:00 p.m., the copy finished uploading. Ava labeled the drive by hand. E6. Server log integrity proof. She sealed it in a transparent bag, wrote her initials across the top, then used a red tamper sticker. As she pressed the seal down, she noticed her hands trembling. Fatigue. Adrenaline. Or maybe the weight of certainty. Done, Anita said. We'll submit to legal tomorrow. Not yet, Ava said. One more thing. She opened her phone, snapped a picture of the sealed bag, and emailed it to herself. Blind copied to her father's old account, a safety copy of a safety copy. Outside, the night smelled like rain and asphalt. The street lamps buzzed faintly, haloed by mist. Ava stood under one, the red seal glinting faintly in her bag. She opened her palm. Inside lay the cracked compass. The glass caught the streetlight, splitting it into 2 trembling rays. A car slowed near the curb, dark sedan, tinted windows. She didn't move. After a moment, it rolled on, tires hissing against the wet pavement. She slipped the compass back into her pocket and whispered, "Keep north." Upstairs, in the PR office, Patricia was on another late call. Yes, she said into her headset. We have the story ready. Emotional nurse. Misunderstanding. Internal mediation. Yes. Diversity optics check. We'll keep it human. She looked at the draft statement glowing on her screen. Her cursor hovered over the last line. Mercy General remains committed to equality and respect among staff. She hesitated, then deleted the sentence. For a moment, even she looked tired of the lie. At midnight, the server room's backup lights flickered once, then steadied. The camera over the door blinked red, capturing nothing but still air. Inside a cabinet, the sealed drive waited, tagged, logged, irrefutable. And somewhere deep in the machine's hum, it felt as if the system itself was learning how to remember. The boardroom ran cold. Even with the morning light slanting through the frosted windows, glass carafe, water beading, a bowl of mints, pens lined like scalpels along a leather blotter. Ava took the seat closest to the door, not from fear but out of habit, exits mapped before anyone spoke. Evelyn Hart stood at the head of the table, blazer sharp, voice measured. We'll proceed in phases, facts first, no conclusions today. A screen woke with a soft bloom of blue. The Mercy General crest appeared. Then small text. Executive review. Incident 47B. Dr. Nolan Pierce was already in place. Tie the color of polished hematite, hands folded just so. He had a gift for stillness that read as control. Patricia, from communications, set a red folder near Evelyn's elbow. Draft talking points. She murmured, human, not legal. Evelyn didn't reach for it. Counsel's present, she said, nodding to a man with a file the thickness of a brick. Risk is present. Ready, Anita Shah said, opening a narrow notebook. Evelyn clicked the remote. The security footage filled the screen. High angle, fisheye curve, the trauma bay, a cold dish of light. The clip played hands, movement, the white flare of a coat, the shiver of a monitor line. The moment that moment flashed as a blur of shoulder and palm, Ava's head snapping. Then a shadow of Pierce's profile turning away. The audio rode the monitor's alarm, drowning nuance. The slap was implied, not argued. The clip ended. Air hummed in the ducts. Angle doesn't give us much, counsel said, mild regret as a tactic. We'll need corroboration. It gives plenty, Anita replied. Timestamp. Chain. The attempt to delete server copies at 0313 and 0318. We pulled the access logs. All eyes slid to Pierce. He smiled the way a door smiles when it shuts. I logged in to document my note, he said. We were triaging 3 bays. Timestamps reflect that chaos. Ava watched his hands. The left thumb pressed the right thumbnail. Slow. Patient. Evelyn kept her gaze on the screen. We have partial video. We have statements. Counsel folded his fingers. Statements are statements. Patricia cleared her throat. If we're shaping narrative, procedural miscommunication under stress is palatable. Assault is a grenade. Language doesn't change contact, Anita said. Pierce tilted his head. We all want the same thing here, patient safety, institutional trust. It's unfortunate that emotions have stop, Evelyn said. Soft. The soft that carries, we're not diagnosing feeling. Ava's cheek no longer bore the bloom of red, but she felt its echo under the skin, a heat that memory keeps. She looked at the screen again, the camera's void where a corner should be dead space. In that blind wedge, anything could be denied. Evelyn tapped the keyboard. A second window opened. A still frame, then a headline, Nurse Disrupts Code. Source claims insubordination plays role. A cropped image of the gurney. The monitor line, Ava's arm lifted. Mid-syllable. No doctor in frame. No context. The article sat on a local blog that fancied itself a paper. Leak hit at 5:12 am. Patricia said, not looking at Ava. Traffic moderate. It's building. Counsel turned a page. We recommend suspension of all external statements, coordinated internal messaging, and a temporary reassignment pending review. Minimize exposure. Reassignment. Evelyn repeated, tasting the word, yeah. Patricia said, something quiet. Nights. Different floor. Ava waited for the room to steady. What evidence do you need to make the right call? She asked. Counsel offered a thin smile. We'll let the evidence decide. Ms. Ellison, it already did, Anita said. Silence arranged itself like furniture. Pierce leaned back an inch. In crisis, hierarchy keeps patience alive. We can debate tone, but second-guessing in a code is... Protocol is not debate, Ava said. It's the only language a dying body hears. He looked at her, not unkindly, as if correcting a child. You're good at your job, he said. Everyone says so. Don't let a misunderstanding end that. Evelyn's jaw worked once. She pushed her chair back and stood. 10 minute recess, she said. I need the trauma bay notes. The door sighed. People exhaled like it had been permitted. In the hallway, the light shifted cooler, a long pane of glass, turning the city into a smear of chrome and cloud. Ava walked to the end and leaned her forehead against the cool. For one breath, the world steadied. On the other side of the glass, a cleaning crew rolled a cart along polished floor. The mop left a bright trail that dulled as it dried. Anita caught up, opened her small notebook, and held it like an offering. "We can file a supplemental," she said. "Add the access log screenshots. We'll move the decision from," he said. She said to, "He touched the server." And "It's not the same touch." Ava said, "But it's real." A para from admin passed, eyes sliding away from Ava's face and then back, snagging on her badge. "Ms. Ellison," she said, sweet as wrapped candy. "You know we love our nurses." Ava nodded. The woman drifted on, leaving the faint perfume of lilies and a small thing unsaid. Evelyn returned with a thin stack of printouts and the kind of calm that costs. Back in, they took their seats. Paper rasped across wood. "Trauma notes confirm timing," Evelyn said. "Risk has substantiated the deletion attempts." She looked at Ava, a half-beat longer than neutral. "Given the leak, PR requires a placeholder statement. Risk recommends narrow suspension." Patricia straightened. "We frame this as a misunderstanding. We express institutional care. We hold names back." "And the patient?" Ava asked. Counsel glanced down. "Deceased. Family privacy applies. We do not engage." A floor below. The elevator dinged. Tiny bell heard through the ceiling tile. The building breathed in wires and water. Evelyn folded her hands. "Ms. Ellison, do you intend to make a public statement?" Ava looked at the glass again, at the ghost of her reflection layered over the room. "No speeches," she said. "I'll submit an expanded record." Patricia's eyebrows flickered. "To who?" "Risk," Ava said. "And court, if required." Pierce's smile smoothed. "Let's not escalate. Documenting is not escalation," she said. Counsel placed a form on the table. "HR requests your consent to place you on administrative leave with pay pending the outcome." Anita spoke before Ava could. "Chain of custody items remain in Risk's possession." Evelyn nodded. "Yes." Patricia slid her red folder a centimeter forward, like a quiet clap. "And we'll need your statement refined to remove pointed language." "What language is pointed?" Ava asked. Patricia read from the draft. "Physical contact. Maybe we say contact. Remove physical." Anita's pen tapped once. "Contact is physical." Counsel sighed through his nose. "Words matter. Impact matters more," Ava said. Evelyn rubbed the bridge of her nose. "Ms. Ellison, take 48 hours. Don't engage media. Don't post. We'll finalize pending the additional logs." Ava signed the form. The pen felt heavier than ink could account for. As she rose, Pierce rose too, a choreographed courtesy. "If you'd like to debrief privately," he said, "I'm available. No need to make this larger than it is." She looked at the dent. His chair left in the carpet. "It's exactly as large as it is." She stepped into the corridor. The door closed on the soft click of a latch that had decided. The staff elevator smelled like stale coffee and floor wax. A custodian stood beside a cart. Rubber sole kid. He was older, a limp barely there, a white rag folded neat over his wrist. "You dropped this," he said, holding out a small square of paper. It was a printed still, a frame from the security clip. Ava's head turned, Pierce's hand a blur. The timestamp sat in the corner, numbers sharp. On the back, in block pen, "I saw. I'll talk." She looked up. His eyes met hers, then darted to the camera in the ceiling corner. a little red dot pretending to be nothing. He slid 2 fingers along his temple in a gesture that wasn't a salute and wasn't not. The elevator opened on 3. He rolled out without looking back. Ava stood for 1 breath longer, then tucked the still into her pocket. The paper was warm from his hand. By late afternoon, the leak had grown legs. A second blog embedded a fragment, the cropped shot again pasting over it. A caption that called her volatile, comments stacked like bricks. A donor sent a letter asking for calm and continuity. In the copy room, the fluorescent ballast buzzed like a hornet. Ava printed her supplemental access logs in red circles, the intact chain list, her narrative stripped to verifiable bones. She slid each page into a transparent sleeve, pressed each hole into the binder rings until they snapped. She set the binder on the counter. For a moment, she did nothing, just stood and listened. The distant hiss of HVAC, the crackle of a laser printer cooling, the skip of a rolling chair 2 rooms away. The quiet was not peace, but it made room for breath. Her phone vibrated. A blocked number again. A text this time, delete it, and we all walk away clean. She deleted nothing. Evelyn found her near dusk, light turning the hallway to pewter. Risk received your supplemental, she said, and it helps. That word is doing a lot of work, Ava said. Evelyn's eyes tracked a crack in the floor tile. This isn't about sympathy, Ms. Ellison. It's about survivable truth. Truth doesn't need adjectives, Ava said. Evelyn nodded once, almost to herself. Go home. 48 hours. Let the machine churn. Ava nodded, then didn't leave. She walked to the far window instead. The city threw itself against the glass in 1,000 tiny lights. She reached into her pocket and took out the compass. The crack in the glass caught the last of the day, splitting it into 2 thin blades. The needle held north with a stubbornness she envied. Behind her, the copier warmed, a fan spinning down to a hush. She closed the compass and slipped it away. The still from the elevator pressed against her palm. Ink bled faintly where a wet rag had rested. The building exhaled through its vents. Somewhere, a camera blinked red and did not blink off. The maintenance stairwell smelled like bleach and damp concrete. Somewhere above, a pipe ticked as it cooled, tiny metal contractions counting down to morning. Ava sat on the step, the printed still between her fingers, grainy frame, her head turned, a hand blurred into motion. On the back, thick block letters, I saw, I'll talk. She memorized the slant of the handwriting, the way the pen dug at the downstroke, the small hesitation before the apostrophe. Her phone buzzed. Leah's name lit the screen. You free? Leah asked. Stairwell B. Ava said, 2 minutes. Leah arrived with a camera bag ghosting her shoulder. Hair still damp from rain. She sat 1 step down, like she knew not to be above. You okay? I'm cataloging, Ava said. Leah looked at the still. That's from the Bay Cam, pulled as a print. Anonymous. Leah touched the corner, careful not to smear. Not just anonymous. Afraid. The stairwell light hummed. Drip. Drip. Somewhere, a mop bucket took the fall. Leah unzipped the bag, produced a small tie-seal envelope, and slid the photo inside. Chain. Even for ghosts. Ava exhaled once. You still want the story. I want the proof. Leah's tone had no sugar. I won't run it without your consent. This isn't consent, Ava said. It's oxygen. Leah nodded like a promise. We stay with documents. Names only when the law forces them. Ava's palm found the compass in her pocket. The cracked glass felt cool. The needle, a stubborn tremble. She didn't open it. Something else. Leah said, I got a message from someone in admin They say your HR meeting has a pre-written outcome. How pre-written? Leave with pay. No fault language. Transfer. Recommended. Ava stared up the shaft. A rectangle of light on the landing glowed dull, like a window underwater. Who sent it? Leah shook her head. Burner. Typo pattern suggests I think it's someone who can't be seen choosing. Gray, Ava said. Gray. Leah agreed. The door opened above. Voices poured down a burst of laughter. The scrape of a wheeled cart. Leah tucked the envelope deeper into the bag. Tonight, Ava said, rising. I'll send you something. What? Context that doesn't wash off. The donor lounge sat apart from the main corridors, insulated with thick carpet and old portraits that had learned to smile through scandals. Evelyn Hart stood at the window with a folder and a phone pressed between shoulder and cheek. I understand, she said. No, of course stability matters. Yes, I'll personally ensure messaging. Her eyes traced the curve of the river beyond the parking lot. We're aligned on excellence. She ended the call, set the phone on the marble, and opened the folder. Inside lay a draft agreement for a surgical wing extension. There was a small, handwritten addition on a sticky flag. Public disruptions minimize donor confidence. Daniel stepped in, jacket over his arm. Lucent. He looked older than yesterday. They pulled my voting rights, he said. For how long? Evelyn asked. Pending investigation. He laughed once. No humor in it. That word covers any length they like. Evelyn closed the folder. I'm sorry. Are you? He leaned against the credenza, knuckles pale. I need you to deny the PR narrative. Ev, tell Patricia to stop calling assault a misunderstanding. We're balancing, she said. The word tasted like aspirin. Between what and what? Keeping the place solvent, she said, and not lying. Pick one, he said. She looked at the portraits. They picked me because they think I'll choose the first. Will you? Silence landed between them, like a glass set too carefully on wood. A chime sounded from her phone calendar alert. Draft statement, due by 1600. Evelyn turned it face down. Daniel rubbed his eyes. If Ava keeps pushing, they'll bury her career. She wasn't made to be buried. Evelyn said, neither were we. He left. The door whispered shut behind him. Evelyn lifted the folder again. Her hand hovered over the sticky flag, then pulled it off and tore it in half. The sound was soft as paper breath. In the record's alcove, under the hum of fluorescent ballast, Ava logged her day in tight script. Lingzhou, 14 Stairwell B, received anonymous still. Note on reverse. Sure, 32. Spoke with L. Agreed on document-only parameter. Shirar, 08 overheard. PR drafts, outcome language pre-HR. Susan, 47 donor presence, increased calls to admin. Shirsi, 15 security cam audit request filed. Corridor cams near trauma. She stopped, tapped the pen against the margin. The drip of the stairwell followed her. Phantom rhythm, her inbox bloom. Subject lines move. Reminder social media policy. Mandatory civility workshop. Uniform standards. The workshop email featured a photo of smiling nurses, all tooth and teal. She clicked none of them. Instead, she opened a new message, attached a folder of redacted logs and the numbered chain list, and addressed it to Leah. In the subject line, she typed E7 to E12 for safekeeping. She paused with the cursor over send. The compass on the desk lay closed, even shut. The seam of cracked glass caught the overhead. A silver scar. She hit send. The file bar crawled across, patient as a measured breath. Her phone flashed a new message from an unknown number. Careers can be quiet. Choose quiet. She set the phone face down. By late afternoon, the hospital became a machine of fixed smiles. Volunteers refilled water pitchers. A pianist played something light in the atrium, the melody fraying against the smell of disinfectant. On the main floor, a small cluster of reporters loitered just outside the automatic doors, pretending they were waiting for a friend. Patricia greeted donors with 2 hands per handshake, her headset pinned between hair and courtesy. "I appreciate your commitment," she said on loop. "We remain dedicated to excellence." When she reached the hallway to the boardroom, Ava stepped out of a side corridor. They stopped within arm's length. "Language shapes harm," Ava said. "So does spectacle," Patricia said. "Documenting isn't spectacle." To a camera, both looked the same. A volunteer pushed a linen cart between them. Quiet collision of wheels and carpet seam. Patricia kept her smile steady. "Take tonight. Ms. Ellison. Breathe." Ava looked over Patricia's shoulder at the transparent wall. Her reflection hovered beside the communications director's, both of them framed by a painted donor's smile. "The system breathes for itself," she said. Patricia's smile thinned. "What do you want?" "Accurate words. You want a fight? I want a record." Patricia's headset beeped. She tilted her head like listening to rain through a door. "Excuse me," she said, and moved away. Ava stood until the linen cart's tracks disappeared. Evening cooled the building. The night crew took the floor, fewer voices, more echoes. In stairwell B, water tapped metal with metronome regularity. Ava waited on the third landing, the still photos weight a memory in her pocket. The custodian from the elevator appeared, limping less than before. He carried a stack of fresh plastic liners and a coil of blue bags. He didn't look at the camera. "I won't put your name on anything," Ava said. He stared at the bags, then at his hands. "Not about my name," he said. "What is it about?" "They watch who talks," he said. "Not what was said." "We can protect you," she said. He shrugged with one shoulder. "You can try." A drop fell somewhere below, counted itself among others. "You saw him," she said. He nodded once. "Saw the room, not look." Ava's throat tightened. "Will you speak under seal?" He tilted his head, calculating a risk he'd carried for longer than a day. "If it's paper," he said. "Ink. Stamp. Not a microphone." "Paper," she said. "Ink. A stamp." He handed her another still. Different angle. Corridor camera. Pierce exiting the bay at 02. Sherlock. Yafset. Glove, half off. Timestamp bright in the corner. On the back, check 03. 12 login. "I know," she said. "Then make them know," he said. He moved past, the coil of bags unwinding a little, blue plastic whispering along the rail. When the door closed behind him, the stairwell swallowed the sound. Ava opened her palm and set the still against the compass. The cracked glass split the fluorescent glare into 2 pale blades that crossed over the timestamp, pinning it like a specimen. At home, rain stitched sound onto the window. Leah's reply arrived with a soft ping. Got E7 to E12. Locked. Off-seat mirrors engaged. Need your decision. Publish internally. Member newsletter. Or hold for court. Your call, Ava. No pressure, only compass. Ava let the screen dim to a dull glow. She pictured the donor lounge, the sticky flag torn. Evelyn's face, tired in a way that wasn't sleep. Her father's hands braced against furniture that wouldn't hold them. She typed, "Hold. If PR goes with misunderstanding, we release to members with documents only, no adjectives, no names, just pages." Leah answered in seconds. "Copy. Oxygen, not gasoline." Ava set the phone down and went to the sink. The faucet squeaked, released a thin thread of water that hammered the steel basin louder than its size. She cupped her hands and let it pool, cold until it numbed the skin. The drip from the stairwell followed her into the apartment. Paired with the tap's small aggression, 2 instruments keeping time in a house made of night, She shut the water off. The sudden quiet was a vacuum that made her aware of breath. On the table, the compass waited beside the second still. She opened it. The needle settled without tremor. North held like a vow. She laid the corridor frame beside the bay frame. Timestamps, married by ink. In the margin of her notebook she wrote, paper, ink, stamp. Then she looked at the door, listened for footsteps that didn't come, counted to 10, and began drafting an affidavit template for a custodial witness. She left the name blank. At the top, she wrote the date and the hour in block letters. When she reached the line labeled signature, she set the pen down and waited, not for courage, but for the quieter thing that comes after shape settling in plaster, water finding a pipe, a building. Remembering which way weight goes, the rain softened. The city exhaled. The compass glass caught a passing headlight and threw a thin blade across the page, clean, bright, and pointed where the lines converged. By morning, the hospital's glass facade reflected a small crowd cameras, tripods, umbrages like dark flowers. Security roped a lane between doors and shrubs, but questions traveled farther than rope. Miss Ellison, are you accusing a physician? Is this a diversity dispute or a safety issue? Flashes salted the air. A reporter bumped her shoulder and murmured, sorry, without looking sorry. The automatic doors sighed open, swallowing the noise into the antiseptic hush. Inside, monitors chimed in polite conflict. Coffee burned in a stainless carafe. At the volunteer desk, a teenager adjusted a donation jar so the label faced out. Music Therapy Fund, thank you. The place looked like good news on a brochure. Leah was waiting near the elevators with a press badge turned backward. Her camera hung low, lens capped. They know your name, she said. How? Somebody posted your employee photo. Facebook alumni group, then everywhere. Ava felt the jolt like a small electrical bite. What page? Concerned Community of Mercy Families. Leah's mouth tightened. The thread is not kind. Ava hit the up button. Anything useful? They linked to a blog that says, you disrupted a code. Same crop. Leah lowered her voice. And my editor got a call. If she keeps covering this, she'll lose access. Ardy. Ava looked at the blank elevator doors. She could see both of their faces in the brushed steel, elongated, turned into ghosts. Will you lose access? I'll survive. Leah tapped her bag. Paper, ink, stamp. The elevator opened on a bell that sounded gentler than the morning deserved. HR had chosen its stage carefully. A room with more glass than walls, frosting cut to shoulder height so that heads floated past like fish. 2 chairs, one ficus too healthy to be real. Ms. Ellison, the HR officer said, smiling with his mouth closed. Thank you for coming. Ava set her hands on the table, fingers flat. Palms cool. We said 10. We're on time. He slid a document toward her. Administrative leave. With pay. 48 hours. Pending what? Ava asked. Pending an independent review of conduct and communication. My conduct. The whole event. He kept smiling. We're asking for a voluntary statement, and we encourage you to refrain from public commentary. Define public. Ava said, social media, press, any non-internal forum. She read the page. The language was polished to shine. Mutual respect, stability, regrettable confusion. The one word missing was the only one that mattered. Where's assault? Ava asked. That term carries legal weight. We avoid prejudgment. He rotated his wrist, showing a thin, expensive watch. Please sign. Anita sat beside her. Legal pad ready. Chain offham custody remains with risk. That's non-negotiable. The officer nodded. Yes. Ava reached for the pen. I have a condition. The smile didn't slip. We don't negotiate leave. Not that. She tapped the paper. He won't apologize. No one asked you to. Patricia appeared in the doorway like a shadow that knew its light. "Ava," she said softly, "we're drafting a statement. If you could agree to language less pointed, it would help." "What language?" Ava asked. Patricia slid a card across the table. "We regret an incident that has caused concern. Replace harm with concern. Replace violence with incident. Replace contact with interaction." Ava pushed the card back with one finger. "No, be strategic," Patricia said. "Be accurate." Ava said. Anita's pen drew a small circle on her pad and stopped. "Sign the leave," she murmured. "Keep your oxygen." Ava signed. The pen dug a groove she didn't intend, a small trench across the H. Patricia exhaled, like someone tasting something bitter and pretending it was fine. "We'll proceed," she said. "I do suggest rest. I suggest honesty," Ava said. Standing, they let her leave. The door closed. The ficus didn't move. The cafeteria had shifted into late morning echo, clatter, steam, a radio murmuring a pop hit from last summer. Ava bought tea she wouldn't drink and found a corner with her back to the wall. Her phone lay face down until it didn't. Unknown number. Delete the leaks. Final warning. Another text from a local news app. Breaking. Sources say Mercy Noor's under review. A thumbnail showed her shoulder, the edge of her hair. Not her face, but almost. The caption read like a charge sheet, edited by a politician. Leah slid into the seat opposite. "Your home address is on a comment thread," she said. Ava stared. The T-tag shivered as if something breathed on it. "How many comments?" "Hundreds," Leah said. "Most noise. Some ugly." Ava flipped the phone. Her thumb hovered over airplane mode. "Call the precinct." "I already did." Leah pulled out a folded paper. "I know a community officer. He'll drive by tonight." Ava unfolded the paper. Handwritten. A badge number. A name. Real ink. "Thanks," she said. Leah looked at the tea, then at Ava. "You don't have to be brave every minute." "I'm not." Ava lifted the cup. The steam touched her cheek. "I'm stubborn." Leah almost smiled. On brand. A group of nurses passed. Chatter pinched at the edges. One tossed a look that missed contempt by a hair. "We love our nurses," she said too brightly, as if reading a poster. Ava nodded to the paper. "Keep those off-site mirrors hot. They're humming," Leah said. By noon, a press conference materialized outside. Microphones sprouting where the shrubbery used to be. Pierce appeared in a navy suit that photographed well. He didn't look at the cameras so much as accept them. "I respect my colleagues," he said into an array of windscreens. "I respect our nurses. I regret that a difficult night has been mischaracterized." A reporter called, "Did you strike her?" He smiled like a man who had practiced softness in a mirror. "I would never harm a colleague." "What about the attempted deletion of records?" Another asked. "That's inaccurate," he said. "We were documenting in real time. We save lives. We don't edit truth." Inside the glass, staff paused with trays and charts to watch him on a mounted TV. The audio lagged half a second behind his mouth, and the delay made everything seem rehearsed. Evelyn watched from the donor lounge, with the door half closed. Daniel stood behind her, arms crossed. "He's clean on camera," he said. "He's done this before," she said, not looking away. "You let PR put him there?" he asked. "I told them not to," she said. "And?" She didn't answer. On screen, Pierce placed a hand over his heart. "We're one team," he said. "I ask for patience." Daniel made a noise that might have been a laugh if it were a loud joy. "They'll believe him. Some will," Evelyn said. "Some always will." Her phone buzzed with a new email. Donor concern. Request for assurance. She didn't open it. By late afternoon, Ava's inbox filled with HR training reminders, civility video, de-escalation playlist. Positive communication quiz. Each arrived with a cheerful banner. She deleted none of them. She filed nothing. She waited. The waiting broke at 4. Ling Xi. Her father called from a blur of hallway noise. "They're forcing my resignation," he said. She stood in the corridor, where the light went blue at 4. Effective when? Tonight. A door clicked on his end. Theater. It's supposed to protect us. It protects them. "I'm sorry," she said. "I should have stopped this press circus." He said, "I tried. I lost." "You didn't lose me," she said. There was a long exhale. "They think I'll talk you down. Will you?" "No." She heard the smile he didn't want. "I taught you north." The call ended before either of them could say a sentence they'd regret. A volunteer leaned a welcome sign against the wall and smiled with practiced warmth. "We appreciate you," she said, like a scented sticker. Ava nodded and stepped into the stairwell. The quiet met her with the smell of concrete and cleaning solution. Drip, drip. She listened until her heart matched it. Dusk brought rain and sirens bent by distance. Leah's text buzzed. "PR going live at 6. Misunderstanding in script." Then, "Your call." Ava. Ava sat at her small kitchen table. The compass lay open beside her laptop. The needle held true. A thin, black insistence. On screen, an email draft newsletter to union members waited with the cursor in place. She typed, "Internal notice. Documentation update. Attached are redacted server logs. 03. Shirar. Lingsan. Shuba. Chain of custody IDs. E1 to E12. And verified timestamps. We don't offer adjectives. We offer pages." She attached the files. She looked at the door as if someone would knock and ask her to be kind to the story. No one knocked. She hit send. The fan in her laptop rose in pitch, then settled. Rain ticked the window frame with careful fingers. Her phone buzzed again. Unknown number. Final. Delete or you won't work again. Another message. This one a photo of her building's front steps. Empty. Wet. Night making a mirror of the granite. No threat in words. The angle was enough. Ava walked to the door and pressed her palm to it. The wood felt warmer than it should have. She called the number the community officer had written and gave her address. His voice was steady, faintly bored. "We'll cruise past," he said. "Lights low." "Thanks," she said. "You got people there?" "Yes." "You sure?" "Yes," she said again. "And wasn't—" She turned the compass so the crack caught the kitchen light. It split the glow into 2 blades that crossed over the 0 on the bezel. She stayed there a long minute, watching the line where the halves met. At 6, the hospital's statement went live. "We regret an incident that has caused concern. We are committed to dialogue." It did not use the word that mattered. Leah's newsletter followed at 6:03. No adjectives. Screenshots. Hashes. Circles in red. A copy to her off-site mirrors. A beat later. Hashtags collided like weather. "Keep the record." Team Pierce. Nurses speak. "Order in case." "The world did what it does." Shouted in text. Ava turned her phone face down and stood in the quiet. The refrigerator hummed. The building settled. Somewhere in the alley, a bottle broke without drama. She closed the compass and placed it on the windowsill. Outside, the city smeared itself into a painting she didn't own. A cruiser eased past, light bar dark, tires whispering against wet asphalt. It continued to the end of the block and disappeared. Ava breathed in, breathed out. Her cheek no longer hurt. Her hands did. She flexed them, then let them rest. On the table, a single page waited, the affidavit template she had drafted. Blank line for a name, blank line for a signature, space for a stamp. Rain traced a cold path down the glass and found its own seam. The apartment, like the hospital, kept breathing. Quiet can be a kind of noise. Quiet can be a promise disguised as nothing. The audit room lived in the hospital's basement, a rectangle of recycled air and static metal shelves, antistatic mats, a desk scarred by boxes and staplers. The hum of servers massed behind a locked grate, steady as a second heart. Anita Shah hung her blazer on the back of a chair and rolled her sleeves. She set a legal pad down like a placemat and clicked her pen. "We build the ledger," she said. Ava nodded. She had slept 4 hours. It showed as a thin salt line at the edge of her hair. As a carefulness in how she reached for things, Anita drew columns on the pad. Event, time, actor, evidence ID, chain. Her handwriting was clean block letters, slanted for speed. "We assign numbers E13 to E, whatever it takes. No adjectives. We let the ink do the work." Ava slid a stack of printouts across the desk. Server logs, corridor cams near trauma, HR appointment timestamps, Leah's mirror confirmations. Anita's eyebrows rose a hair. "She's fast. She's scared." Ava said, "Fear is fast." Anita replied, "All right." Anchor points. She copied times from the logs. Each digit committed to a line. Lingar, 14 a.m. Bay video. Lingar, sees Pierce exits. Ling San, 12 and 03. 18 attempted access. Ava pointed to a narrow strip of data. "Look here." Anita leaned in. A line broke the monotony of entries. Ling Ling, 17 am. User N. Pierce privilege escalation failed. A baby bird of a note in a nest of numbers. Anita underlined it once. "Overreach," she said. "He tried before the code. Practice or paranoia. Doesn't matter. It's pattern." She labeled it with neat care. E13. Unauthorized privilege escalation. Attempt. Source. CM export. Custodian. InfoSec. Who's InfoSec tonight? Anita checked a staff chart pinned with a magnet. Kevin Brower. Graveyard shift. Harmless mustache. Will follow a checklist to his own funeral. She stood. "I'll bring him in." While she was gone, Ava opened the envelope the custodian had slipped to her on the stair. Corridor still. Pierce's yaw. The glove dangling. She laid it next to the CM printout. So the timestamps kissed. A little voltage ran through her chest. Not fireworks, a small, practical light. Anita returned with Kevin and his mustache. He carried a plastic tub of evidence, sleeves, and a barcode gun. "Ladies," he said, breath fogging his glasses, "you paged the mole." Anita gestured to the chair. "We need CM exports hashed and sealed. Chain starts here." Kevin's hands woke as they worked. He plugged in a portable write blocker, slid a drive into its throat, and watched the activity light blink to life. "We're pulling raw," he said. "SHA-256 on extract, and we'll put MD5 for the dinosaurs." He opened a small utility and began the ritual of integrity. "No USB cowboying. You want reproducibility. You get boring." The printer ticked out labels. The barcode gun chirped. Anita wrote the IDs on a chain form, each line a little fence. E13, E14, E15. "We'll need your signature," she said to Kevin. He shrugged. "Make me famous." "No names go out," Ava said. Kevin glanced at her. "Not my first rodeo," he said. "Then sober it. Just the first with a doctor." The room recorded the joke and the sorrow behind it, then put them away in a drawer. The server hummed. Anita slid a red tamper seal across to Ava. "You do it." Ava peeled the backing and smoothed the seal across the zip of the evidence bag. It made a soft sound. Adhesive finding purchase. Paper. Ink. Stamp. Plastic. Seal. New liturgy. E13 sealed at 09. Sanchitsi, Anita said, stamping an oval on the form. "Custody. Risk. The oval clicked down, inked and indisputable. Anita tapped it once. That sound is why we'll win. Is that winning? Ava asked. It's the only kind this place recognizes. The door clicked. Evelyn Hart stepped in, damp from the mist outside, eyes lined by a night she hadn't confessed to. She closed the door behind her and leaned against it a breath longer than politeness allowed. Status, she said. Anita slipped into her recital voice. We've identified an attempted privilege escalation at 00. 17 unter Dr. Pierce's credentials, followed by 2 access attempts post-incident. We've sealed CM exports as E13 through E15. Corridor stills labeled E16 and E17. We're building the ledger. Evelyn moved to the edge of the desk. Her gaze snagged on the corridor, still showing Pierce's profile. She didn't touch it. The board meets at 4, she said. You'll present this. If permitted, Anita said. You'll be permitted. Evelyn didn't smile. PR is running at 6. They're going with misunderstanding because it buys time. Her tone made a sliver of glass sound kind. Your updates will burn time we can't afford. And yet here we are. Ava waited. Evelyn's eyes flicked to her, then back to the printouts. They've accepted Daniel's resignation, Evelyn said, like an X-ray. She was obligated to read aloud. Effective immediately. Ava's hands tightened on the edge of the table. The metal gave her nothing back. The server kept its hum. Anita's span post. I'm sorry, she said, because it was the only sentence for that. Ava nodded once. The nod had edges. Evelyn studied her for a half-beat, as if calibrating something private. Keep going, she said, and left before she had to hear herself say anything sympathetic. Kevin whistled a short, aimless line, and stopped when he remembered where he was. Okay, he said to no one. Hashes verifying. Anita slid the plastic tub back toward him. Thank you. Kevin, bring fresh sleeves tomorrow. He saluted with the barcode gun and retreated into his systems. When the door fell soft behind him, the room felt smaller. Anita capped her pen. Next, she said, business like a bandage. Witness. The custodian, Ava said, wants paper, not a microphone. Then we give him paper. Anita pulled a blank affidavit from a file. We'll walk him through it. Neutral verbs. He signs in front of a notary. We keep it sealed unless counsel moves to unseal. A stamp, Ava said. A stamp. Anita hecho it. She wrote the date in the top right corner, then underlined it once. It looked like a promise wearing a deadline. They found him on 4, changing a liner, the blue bags breathing open with a whisper. He didn't look up when they approached, as if not seeing them kept him from being seen. We'll use initials, Anita said. No one will say your name. He kept his eyes on the bin. I got kids, he said. We know. I got a knee that hurts when the rain starts, he said. That's not relevant, just seems the kind of detail a real form might like. Anita smiled with one corner of her mouth. We like it. He wiped his hand on his pants and took the affidavit. He read slowly, as if the words might change while he looked. When he reached the line about videos, he paused, then nodded. He circled the timestamp with a blunt pencil he produced from nowhere. I saw the hand, he said. I saw the room pretend it didn't. Will you sign under seal? Anita asked. He looked down the hall to where a nurse passed with a tray and a half smile. If you stamp it, he said. Anita produced a small portable notary stamp, the kind kept in a drawer for when the world needs to do the right thing on a Tuesday. We stamp, he signed. The letters were careful, like a child's effort to please a teacher. Anita stamped. The sound was crisp, small thunder. Chain begins now, she said, more to the paper than to the man. He handed the pen back. If they make me clean that bay again, he said, I'll ask for different floors. You'll get them, Ava said. He nodded. His limp showed a little more when he turned away. Back in the audit room, Anita slid his affidavit into a sleeve and labeled it E18. She sealed it with a red strip. 18, she said, enough to make counsel swallow. The fluorescent light flickered once, then settled. The room exhaled recycled air. Ava reached for her shoulder bag and removed a small black external drive, the one that held her mirrored copies. It was nicked at the corner where it had caught on her desk. She ran a thumb over the nick and then set the drive beside the ledger. Anita watched her. You don't have to. If it stays with me, Ava said, they call it insubordination. If it stays with risk, they call it procedure. Anita held her gaze for a count of 2, then nodded. E19, external backup, surrendered by Ms. Ellison. We logged possession as risk at 12. Arsha Sen. She wrote the time, underlined it, drew a small box around it so it couldn't get out. Chain of custody, she said. Chain of trust. Same metal. Same weight. Ava said. Anita pulled a new seal. Ava pressed it down. The bag fogged briefly under her palm with the heat of her skin, and then cooled. E19, sealed. Anita said. You sure? No. Ava said. But it's right. They sat in the hum and looked at the red line, like it was a line across a map that meant something larger than distance. A text arrived on Ava's phone. You think paper saves you? Paper burns. No number. Screenshot proof disposal. She put the phone face down, then turned it back up and took a screenshot. She emailed it to Anita with the subject, threat log, a new entry, new fence. Anita's laptop pinged. She glanced at the top corner, then pivoted the screen toward Ava. An alert from InfoSec. Policy violation attempt. N. Pierce 12. 31 p.m. Another peck at a locked door. He never learns, Anita said. He thinks doors are suggestions, Ava said. Anita reached for the phone. I'll tell legal to pull his access until review. You'll light him up, Ava said. I'll keep the lights on, Anita said. She dialed, spoke in nouns and times, said urgent without moving her face. When she hung up, she let out a breath that didn't move her shoulders. They'll lock him out for 72 hours, she said. He'll spin on TV. He won't spin here. Small mercies, Ava said. They built through lunch. Ichigo hallway camera angle list. E21 HR calendar metadata. E22 PR draft versions. With tracked changes, courtesy of a gray cursor, whose name they removed. E23 Union newsletter outgoing headers, proving it hadn't originated with Ava's account. Each entry mattered. Each had to be true twice. At 2:40, Leah texted a photograph of her own, an open safe deposit box. The envelopes inside neat as bricks. Mirrors awake. She wrote, sleep later. Ava typed, stamp where you can. Leah sent back a single image of a date stamp pressed on a plain white sheet. Today's date. Dark and certain. At 3:38, the LED panel over the basement hallway flickered from white to a faint blue. No one had ordered. The air felt cooler by a degree. The server racks clicked as something inside them rotated and reset. Anita looked up. Power test, she asked. Kevin popped his head in, mustache, like an alert. Facilities glitch, he said. We're on backup for 5. Nothing drops. Logs, Anita asked. Continuous, he said. Redundancy makes me pretty. Had disappeared. The blue light wavered, then warm. Put it in, Ava said. Anita added a line to the ledger. 15:38 temporary switchover to backup power. No loss. She boxed it and drew an arrow to E13. The page acquired a pattern like a map where rivers make cities. Board in 20, Anita said. We take the binder. We leave the drive. We take the stamps. And the compass, Ava said, pulling the small brass from her pocket. She set it on the table. The cracked glass caught the overhead and divided it cleanly into two pale blades that crossed on the north point. Anita watched the needle steady like a hand finding pulse. Superstition, Anita asked. Instrument, Ava said. They climbed to executive where the air smelled like lemon water and new carpet. Outside the boardroom, Evelyn waited with a face arranged for weather. She took the binder in both hands, felt its weight. Be precise, she said. We don't have another gear, Anita replied. Evelyn's gaze went to the compass for the briefest second and away. They'll ask for compromise. Ava slid the compass into her palm. We'll offer paper. The door opened. Counsel's brick of a file waited like a challenge in leather. Patricia sat with her headset coiled around one ear and a blank statement in front of her. The word concern visible even upside down. As they crossed the threshold, a quiet beat landed in the room. The sound of the door hush, the thin rasp of paper against paper, the throat clearing of someone about to pretend they didn't already know the ending. Ava set the ledger on the table. The red seals caught the light. The stamps glowed dull as dried blood. For a heartbeat? The machine looked at its own reflection and paused. Anita clicked her pen. Begin, Evelyn said. Ava didn't trust her voice, so she didn't use it. She opened the binder to E13 and pointed. The room bent to look. The first line of the ledger met the eyes that had doubted ink. The needle inside her pocket held north. The hum of the building returned to its steady note, as if the basement heart had been waiting for this moment to settle. Outside the glass, the city kept moving. Inside it, paper made a sound no camera could edit. The courthouse smelled like toner and rain, marble cold underfoot, fluorescent light flattening faces into masks. Ava stood outside, part 42, with a manila folder pressed to her ribs, the edge digging a small red crescent through her blouse. The compass sat in her pocket like a coin someone prayed over too hard. Ellison, a clerk with ink on his fingers, lifted a clipboard. You're here on People v. Pierce. Preliminary. Yes. Her voice found the floor and stayed there. Assistant District Attorney Sloan Patel approached, dark hair twisted into a knot that looked like it solved problems. She carried a narrow trial bag and a stainless mug. Ms. Ellison, she said. Quick handshake, eyes already scanning. I've reviewed Risk's ledger. Clean work. We'll establish foundation with Anita. You'll testify to chain and context short, not sermon. Short, Ava said. No adjectives, unless I ask for them. Patel glanced at the courtroom door. Defense filed a motion to exclude your external drive. Tainted source. We'll beat it with hash consistency. A bailiff opened the door. The room exhaled wood and dust. Inside, Pierce sat at counsel table in a charcoal suit, watch winking like a signal. His lawyer, Breckenridge jaw like a stapler, sorted papers by color tab. Behind them, a woman with perfect posture and a neutral blouse arranged a laptop. The kind hired experts bring a placard on her briefcase read Dr. Renata Vale, Forensic Imaging. Patel leaned toward Ava. He bought a video alchemist, she murmured. They'll say the frame rate screams tampering. Can frame rate scream? Ava asked. On cross, Patel said. It will whisper. The judge entered, robes swishing like an old curtain. Call the matter. Patel stood. People are ready. Breckenridge stood. Defense is ready and wishes to be heard on a preliminary application. Go, the judge said. Breckenridge's voice carried the smoothness of someone who'd never been told no out loud. Your Honor, the so-called ledger rests on a digital file of uncertain provenance and a witness who disseminated internal materials to third parties. Exclusion is appropriate under foundational rules. Patel's reply was a scalpel. The ledger rests on system logs, hashed at extraction SHA 256 and MD5 corroborated by corridor video pulled under IT custody protocols. The third party received redacted copies for safekeeping after threats. The judge peered over glasses. Hash values match. Patel lifted a page. Your Honor, E13 seam export, hash 1 E2A. Matches the backup in E19. Verified by Risk and InfoSec. We'll call Anita Shah. Breckenridge smiled with only the top half of his face. Our expert will testify those logs could be fabricated in minutes. Patel didn't look at him. And on cross, she'll admit that fabricating synchronized seam, camera, and HR calendar metadata without tripping intrusion alerts would be a miracle. Miracles happen, Breckenridge said. In church, the judge said, dry. Motion denied for now. Foundation adhering. Proceed. A low murmur washed the benches. Ava felt the room's temperature shift a degree warmer. Patel sat. Breathe, she said. They didn't reach testimony before lunch. Calendar stacked cases like cordwood. The judge set a date, warned both sides against press theatrics, and banged once for punctuation. Outside, rain had thickened to needles. Leah waited under the arch, hair caught in a careless clip, camera bag sip. I got hit, she said without preface, meaning, password resets at 3:11 a.m. My outbound server is fine, mirrors intact, but someone raided my drafts. They left a note. She handed Ava a printout cut neatly from an email. Just 2 words. Be quiet. Ava ran a thumb over the cut edge. Who knows your off-site boxes? No one who will admit it. Leah's mouth twitched. They copied the letters I never sent. The ones where I say what I feel, not what I can prove. Then they have nothing. Ava said. They have tone, Leah said. And tone outsells truth. A patrol cruiser rolled past, tires hissing. The air smelled like wet concrete and a hot dog cart gone unlucky. Leah lifted her camera and lowered it without shooting. You looked steady in there, she said. I kept my hands still. Ava said, still counts. They crossed at the light. Somewhere behind them a vendor shouted. A laugh cut too short. By mid-afternoon, the hospital pulsed with the particular hurt of a place that knows it's being watched. Donations were postponed, not pulled. Tours were rescheduled, not canceled. Patricia shepherded a group of donors through the atrium like a weather presenter explaining a storm she didn't cause. In the glass-walled conference room, Evelyn Hart faced a board with new voices on old chairs. She wore a navy dress, the color of judgment, and held a single sheet, no longer than a paragraph. I'll do it live, she said. Internal stream, 5 minutes. Counsel looked pleased to be displeased. You don't need to resign. Ms. Hart, you can let the chair. I'm the face on patient safety posters, she said, and we called an assault a concern. People work here. They need someone to stop performing equivocation. Donors Patricia began. Donors can have their wings without our apologies, Evelyn said. Or they can have both standing. They don't get both at once. Silence stretched like taffy. Daniel stood in the doorway, tea crooked, eyes clear. He said nothing. He didn't move. Evelyn tapped the paper. I will name euphemism, she said. I will not name defendants. And I'll step back. That's the cost of speaking clean. The chair spread his hands, a gesture that invited nothing but looked like grace. Be measured. I'm done measuring. She turned to the lens when the red tally light blinked on. Good afternoon, she said to every monitor in the building. We issued a statement that used one word where another belonged. That was a failure. Our process will be transparent. Our staff deserves more than concern. They deserve safety and truth. I'm stepping aside today to make room for both She put the paper down. She didn't look at Patricia. "Thank you," she said, and turned the light off with a small click. Daniel met her in the hall. "You didn't have to fall on the sword," he said. "I set the sword down," she said. "What will you do?" "Work where paper matters," she said, "and where apologies use the right nouns." He nodded. He looked younger than he had in a week. The labels came whispering first, then speaking. Disruptive anurse, combustible, liability. A doctor with a fondness for analogies said there was a chain of command for a reason. A co-worker who'd hugged Ava twice now avoided eye contact like it burned. Someone taped a flyer to the break room fridge. "Civility starts with me." The exclamation point did all the work. In the stairwell, cool, bleach wet, the lights clicking once every third minute, Ava sat on the landing with her back to the cinder block and let the building breathe around her. A pair of residents clattered down, voices bouncing. "They're going to make us wear body cams." One said, "Good." The other said, "Then," after a beat that sold itself as a joke, "unless I forget my mascara." They laughed and didn't look. A nurse from another floor glanced in and lowered her voice to her friend. "She's playing the race card well." Ava studied the peeling paint by her knee, a line shaped like a coastline she didn't recognize. She counted to 10. She unfolded the affidavit template, the one with the blank name, and wrote a single word where signature waited. Soon, her hands stayed still after Sloan Patel called at 5 with a voice that had the same urgent economy as a code page. "New filing," she said. "Defense retained veil." She swears the camera's variable GOP introduced artifacts that make the contact ambiguous. They want the judge to treat your slap as a motion blur event. And at 2, Ava closed her eyes. "Is that a phrase?" "It is today. We'll counter with audio spectrograms and the metadata that shows the alarm masked the transient. We'll bring in our own forensics. We'll bring Anita. We'll bring Kevin with his mustache. What do you need from me? Don't post. Don't punch. Don't apologize. I wasn't going to do any of those." "Then do keep breathing," Patel said, softer. "That's all I get to ask." Night came early, smearing the city into wet graphite. Leah texted a photo from the newsroom, her desk lit by a single lamp, a yellow legal pad half filled with block letters. "I'm still here," she wrote. "Miroir double." Ava typed, "Sleep sometime." Leah replied with a grainy shot of a cot near the copy desk. 2 hours is a luxury brand. In Ava's apartment, the fridge hummed, and the radiator clicked and tapped to its own theology. She laid the compass on her table and watched the needle settle. The crack in the glass split the lamp into 2 pale spears that crossed right over north. Her phone buzzed again. Not Leah. From an address with a seal in the signature. State Board of Nursing Notice of Inquiry. She opened it. The letter was clinical, guiltless. Allegation. Potential disclosure of protected health information in the course of distributing internal materials. A request for response. A date. The polite threat of licensure review. For a moment her apartment shrank to the size of that screen. Her thumb hovered and then shook once on its way to the home button. She put the phone face down. She picked up a pen. On a fresh page, she wrote, "Response to Board 1 redactions. 2 chain. 3 necessity. 4 threats." Then I chose paper, knowing it would cost. She read the sentence twice. She didn't cross it out. A knock sounded 2 quick, 1 slow. She froze, then looked through the peephole. The community officer from the note stood in the hall, hat under his arm, eyes apologetic in the way of men doing their job at dinner. "Just swinging by," he said when she opened. "Quiet tonight." "Thank you," she said. "You got family close." Close enough to call, she said. He tipped the brim of his hat that wasn't on his head and left with soft steps. The hallway light buzzed. The building settled. Ava returned to the table. She placed the board's letter beside the affidavit template and the ledger index she'd printed for herself. 3 stacks, 3 weights. She set the compass on top like a paperweight less decorative than honest. The apartment exhaled. On the street, someone laughed the angry way. On a neighboring TV, a sitcom audience clapped on cue. Somewhere higher in the building, a faucet dripped with the metronome stubbornness of Chapter 4's stairwell. Ava uncapped the pen and wrote 3 words at the bottom of the board's draft response, then underlined them once. Paper, ink, stamp. She laid her hand flat against the page until the heat of her skin softened it. The needle held true under glass. The crack turned the light into a crosshair. Between the letter and the pen and the compass, the night found its quiet beat and kept it. The auditorium smelled like coffee left too long on a burner. Folding chairs squeaked. A lens-red light glowed above the stage, telling everyone the stream had begun. Ava stood at the back with a manila folder held flat against her ribs. Her fingers left small crescents in the paper that would disappear when the heat did. Patricia moved to the podium in a suit the color of calm. She smiled like a weather map before a storm. "Thank you for coming," she said. "We're here to listen." Murmurs ran the aisles. Union blue on one side, white coats on the other, scrub tops, scattered like islands. On the stage, a table held water, a stack of cards, and a microphone whose cord had been taped in a neat loop. Anita sat at the end with the ledger, its red seals dull under light. Evelyn's seat was empty. Ava didn't try to sit. Standing let her feel the room's temperature. It was rising. Patricia began the script. "An incident has caused concern. We are committed to dialogue." And a nurse in row 4 stood. "Concern is what you feel when the coffee runs out," she said. "Call it what it is." Patricia's smile thinned. "We're addressing language. Address the hand," someone said. Anita lifted a palm. "Modest, precise. We have process," she said. "Risk has sealed evidence. We'll share what we can without violating law." She nodded to the ledger. "We built a record you can trust." Trust is a verb. A respiratory tech called Pierce walked onto the stage like a man late for a dinner he paid for. Navy sweat, subdued tie. He took the second microphone and waited for the noise to register him. "I respect all of you," he said. "I regret any misunderstanding." Ava felt the word pass like grit on enamel. She kept still. The camera's tally light watched. A resident near the front lifted her phone, not to record, but to read. "Doctor, is this you?" she asked. She turned the screen, his hot mic clip from the courtyard. A quick bite. Then a line that belonged to a different century. "You keep them in line or they own you." The audio was thin, wind scraped, but the consonants were clean. A ripple moved through the room. Pierce didn't flinch. "Context," he said. "I was talking about chaos, not people." The resident's thumb paused above the volume slider. "It sounds like people." Patricia moved a step forward. "We won't adjudicate recordings here." "Then why are we here?" a voice asked. Leah stepped into the aisle with a camera she hadn't raised. "To promise transparency," she said. "To pretend it's done." Patricia's eyes cut to her and away. "This is an internal meeting." Leah tapped her badge backward. "I'm a member of the Community Advisory Board," she said. "I'm inside." On stage, Anita flipped the binder open. Red seals caught light. She didn't raise her voice. "Etres prezice privilege escalation attempt E14 and E15 access attempts. E18 sealed witness affidavit. We can't name him. We can name timestamps. We can name procedures." Ava closed her eyes for a breath. "Paper, Ink. Stamp. The sound of Anita's stamp had become its own pulse. Pierce leaned toward his mic. "We are losing ourselves in paperwork," he said. "A patient died. We need to learn, not litigate." Ava opened her eyes. "We need to stop calling violence a lesson," she said. Heads turned. Phones lifted. The tally light brightened. Or maybe it only felt that way. Patricia held up both hands. "Please," she said. Questions through the cards. Cards began to travel like small boats. Comments rose without them. Someone in the back yelled, "Body cams now." Someone else yelled back, "Not on me." The air filled with the sound of demands shaped like hope and fear. Then the building changed. Not the structure, its mood. A tone sounded, a little higher than a doorbell, a little lower than a fire alarm. Code white. A page cut through, flat and practiced. Security to emergency. Code white. The room paused between breaths. Patricia flinched, the first involuntary thing she'd done all hour. Anita's hand went to the ledger as if it were a living thing that might try to run. Meeting adjourned. Patricia said, "Too fast. We'll reconvene by email." The stream cut. The tally light died. The noise didn't. Ava was already moving. The corridor smelled like lemon cleaner and something iron. The elevator was slow and selfish. She took the stairs. The stairwell felt new only because everything in it always did. Bleach. Damp. The metal rail cold enough to catch her palm. On 2, a security guard hustled past, radio at his mouth. "Copy," he said, outside the bay. At the base of the stairs, the custodian, her witness, stood with a trash cart. Eyes too open. A rip ran through a blue liner, guts of paper showing. On his forearm, a smear of something not blood. "You okay?" Ava asked. "They tossed my locker," he said, and lifted a folded paper with hands that shook. "The affidavit?" "Copied." The stamp faint. Across it, in marker, "Rat." Ava's jaw worked once. "Who did it?" "Locker had no camera," he said. His voice had no complaint. "Cameras watch where they want." "We'll move you," she said. He looked at the floor, at his shoes. "My knee hurts," he said. "Is storm coming?" "I know," she said. "We'll move you anyway." He nodded like a man nods at weather. Then he said, "I'm still in." It was quiet. It was enormous. She reached for his hand and didn't. Instead, she set the copied affidavit back into his palm and folded his fingers over it. "Paper keeps," she said, "even when lockers don't. Stamp keeps better," he said. "Then we'll stamp twice," she said, and left him to his cart. Emergency was a wash of voices and heat. The code had been a surge, not a crash. The patient was restrained, not hurt. On the far wall, the corner camera's red eye stared like a supervisor who never slept. Staff breathed in the same tired rhythm: fight, then function, then file. Ava stood at the threshold, counting the chime of monitors, until her own body remembered its pace. Her phone vibrated. An unknown number. A photo. Her apartment door, open 2 inches. Night outside. Light inside. The threshold a cut of dark. She stared until the world sharpened around it. She ran. The street smelled like wet tires and pennies. A cruiser nosed the curb outside her building with lights off but presence obvious. The community officer from before stepped out. "We got a call," he said. "From who?" "No name." "Say your door looked wrong." They took the stairs. Her door hung like a loose tooth. The wood had splintered where the deadbolt met frame. The officer held up a palm and went in first. "Living room clear," he called. "Kitchen clear." "Bedroom." A sound. Not a person. Glass complaining. Ava stepped to the table and saw it. The compass lay cracked open, face down on wood. The glass hadn't just spidered, it had shattered into a crescent, a mouth without teeth. The brass was dented where something hard had kissed it. The needle. naked, trembled and then held. She put her hand on the chair to find gravity. The chair held. The officer walked a slow circle. The drawers had been pulled and closed. Papers were rearranged but not gone. A picture frame face down on the dresser had lost its glass but not its photo. The photo wasn't of anyone interesting, just Ava at a lake, wearing a hat that had become a joke between old friends. A water ring stained the wood under where the frame had been. Electronics intact. The officer said, "No missing TV. No missing laptop." This was message, not robbery. Her phone buzzed again. Another image. A close-up of her kitchen light. A bulb with fingerprints on it you couldn't really see but you felt. Then a text, "Delete your oxygen." Then, paper burns. She took a breath that had trouble being air. "I need to call Risk," she said. "And the DA, you'll file a report." The officer said, "We'll do prints, though you'll hate the powder. We'll log what you say this means." "I can't write in what I think." "Write the timestamp," she said. He wrote, Shujou, Sushirar, address, entry damage, item broken, brass compass, sentimental. It looked stupid and holy in bland blue ink. He offered the pen, "Sign. Chain starts here." He said. She signed. The ink grabbed the paper's tooth and left a groove. He left a card with a case number. "Call me if what you didn't lose matters more than what you did," he said. "It does," she said. When he was gone, the apartment exhaled the smell of disrupted dust. She knelt and picked up the crescent of glass. It laid cool against her fingertip, then cut, blood smudged and bright as a stamp. She pressed it to the affidavit template on her table by accident. Not theater, leaving a half-moon that looked like punctuation. She laughed once, a sound she didn't own. It turned quickly into breath. Leah arrived with rain in her hair and worry under her eye. "I ran the long way," she said. "You okay?" "They took nothing," Ava said. "They made a point." Leah bent to the compass. "Your mother's?" she asked. "My father's," Ava said. Leah touched the brass. "It still points," she said. "Without glass," Ava said. "Some instruments don't need protection," Leah said. "Some do," Ava said. Leah took photos the way she did everything: clean, economical, no flourish. She shot the door, the table, the compass, the crescent of glass wrapped in tissue, the blood half-moon on the draft. She photographed the officer's card and the timestamp. She shot the light bulb because the text had. She shot Ava's hands because they kept not shaking. "You'll log this," Leah said. "I already did," Ava said. Leah's phone buzzed. She looked and closed her eyes. "They suspended me." "Who?" "My paper." She handed it over. The email was short and delicate. "Administrative leave, pending review of your involvement in internal matters at Mercy." The word integrity appeared, then did a trick where it didn't mean itself. Ava put the phone down like it might break a second thing. "I'm sorry." Leah shrugged and didn't. "They told me to pick quiet. I picked oxygen." "Paper burns," Ava said. Leah looked at the blood on the draft. "Sometimes it seals." They sat without talking for a minute that earned its quiet. Outside, a subway groaned under the street like something large turning in sleep. A neighbor coughed politely through a wall. Ava took the broken compass in her hands and turned the casing until the back came free. She eased the needle out with a pair of tweezers from a drawer. Without the face, the needle lost reference. It swung once, twice, then found a direction that might be north or might be its own idea. She set it in the lid and closed the dented brass around it. A small, portable truth. Leah watched her. "That's a sacrament," she said. "It's a tool," Ava said. Her phone buzzed again, the board of nursing, this time with a deadline. Response due in 3 days. Another small clock had started. Ava opened a new document. Response to board. She typed, "I used procedure when narrative failed. I redacted names. I protected patients. I chose paper knowing it might cost my license. I accept review. I do not accept silence. Leah leaned her elbows on the table. You're going to lose something, she said. I already did, Ava said, and glanced at the compass. I'm going to lose more. Then make it count. Leah said. Ava printed the draft and slid it into a sleeve. She wrote E24 on the corner with a black marker. The number looked right there, like it had been waiting. She took the officer's card and clipped it to the sleeve. Chain of custody for a night you couldn't inventory. Leah rose, shouldering her bag. Mirrors still hum, she said. Your oxygen's safe, until it isn't, Ava said. Leah smiled without showing teeth, which is why we keep stamping. Ava walked her to the door. The splintered wood had a serious face now. You need a new lock, Leah said. I need the old one to have worked, Ava said. When Leah was gone, Ava swept the compass glass into a small envelope and sealed it. She labeled it with the time and the word broken. She pressed the red tamper strip across the flap and wrote her initials on the glue seam. The room went quiet enough to hear the refrigerator's soft cycle. A drip began in the radiator, tin on tin, a familiar metronome returning like a chorus. She set the sealed envelope beside the ledger index, and the board letter. She placed the compass next to them, lid closed, needle inside doing its small private work. Her phone buzzed with one more text from the unknown number. Last chance. It sat there like a breath someone forgot to release. She powered the phone off. The screen went black. Her reflection floated there, then faded. Ava laid her palm flat on the table until the heat of it warmed the wood. She pressed the blood half-moon with a clean paper towel and left a lighter mark. The stain didn't disappear. It diluted and stayed. She whispered, not to the room. Paper keeps. The radiator clicked once, an amen you could barely hear. The needle inside the brass found a stubborn line and held. Rain stitched the morning into lines you could almost read. The hospital wore the weather like a second skin glass slick. Lobby mats, dark with footprints. Ava stood by the service elevator with a binder under her arm and the repaired compass needle sealed inside a dented brass shell in her pocket. The elevator's fan hummed, thin as breath through teeth. Anita texted, parking level C, 2 minutes. Alone. Ava rode down. The concrete garage smelled of rubber and cold dust. Water dripped from the ceiling in steady intervals, each drop ringing on metal like a metronome-denied melody. A sedan idled near the far column, exhaust lifting in a slow ghost. Patricia stepped out of the shadow, umbrella closed, hair damp. She looked smaller without a headset, as if the voice in her ear had been a kind of armor. I can't carry this anymore, she said, and handed Ava a plain thumb drive inside a freezer bag with a supermarket logo. Tracked changes. Drafts. A voicemail he left when he thought my phone was still set to conference sugar. Her laugh was quiet and sick. He was sloppy because he thought I would be. Ava didn't touch the bag. Why now? Because I watched our staff clap for euphemisms, while the janitor, who keeps our hallways from smelling like shame, had rot taped to his locker. Patricia looked at her hands. Because Evelyn told the truth and went home with her box, paper, Ava said, Patricia nodded. And because he called my wife at midnight, her lips tightened, he said, you like your school. You like your commute. Keep your spouse in line. He used the word spouse, like it tasted bad. Ava heard the drip, drip. The car heater ticked as it cooled. We'll log it, she said. Patricia exhaled. Do it right, she said, or don't do it at all. She looked at the thumb drive like it could burn through plastic. You hate me, a little. I hate the words you had to say, Ava said. You can help replace them. Patricia swallowed. I don't get absolution. You get a chain of custody. Ava said. She held out an evidence sleeve. Patricia slid the bag inside. Ava peeled a red seal and pressed it over the zip. The adhesive made that small sound she had begun to crave. Anita's hatchback rolled into view, wipers squeaking. She climbed out with a clipboard and a portable stamp. E25, Anita said, writing, thumb drive. Source Patricia Lin. Contents unknown. Sealed 07. Sushasan. She stamped. The ink took. Sign here. Patricia signed. Hand steady. I'll be at my desk at 9, she said. After that, she didn't finish. She tucked damp hair behind her ear and left. Umbrella still closed. Anita watched her go. Gray shifts, she said. Lightning, not dawn, Ava said. They bagged the envelope for the voicemail separately. 2 items, 2 seals, 2 clicks that sounded like accountability. On the mezzanine, donors had been replaced by folding chairs. The board had called a special session. The glass wall turned the meeting into an aquarium. Leah stood outside the circle of seats with her camera at her hip and a press badge that didn't open doors anymore. She mouthed, "You good." Ava lifted the binder. Leah smiled with half her mouth. "Oxygen," she mouthed back. Inside, counsel's leather file lay like a polished brick. The chair wore a tie that pretended patience. Dr. Renata Vale sat near the end, laptop alive with graphs that looked like radio skies. Pierce came late, as if he'd been held up by adoration. His suit had the dull sheen of money that doesn't mind being seen. He didn't look at Ava. He didn't need to. Evelyn was not in her chair. A night janitor pushed a mop along the hallway outside. Head down, the blue liner in his cart, breathing open quietly. "Let's proceed," the chair said. Anita opened the binder. "Risk presents additional items," she said. E25. Communication Draft Repository. E26. Voicemail recording, both sealed. Source Communications. Counsel leaned forward. "On what basis?" Chain initiated by Ms. Lin at 07. Sushasan, Anita said. Stamped. "You may examine these seals." Counsel lifted the sleeve like a delicate animal and checked the red tape. The initials, the time. He said nothing. He set it down with care. Anita clicked a small recorder. The voicemail filled the room. Pierce's voice arrived in that particular quality phones give compressed, nasal, stripped of charm. "Patricia." The statement says, "Concern, not harm. You don't get to drift. Get your people to stop with the nurse worship, and tell your wife to stop quoting bylaws at the gala. It's unbecoming." Silence landed, thin and flat. Counsel cleared his throat, as if that could make sound mean something else. "Irrelevant," he said. "Tone policing is not a crime. It speaks to motive," Anita said, "and to chain." E22's track changes show Dr. Pierce inserted misunderstanding. "I do." Pierce lifted a hand. "I'm not on trial here," he said, smiling at the glass so the hospital could see. "This is internal. We need unity." Ava felt the compass press against her thigh, a small circle of weight. She slid a printed still across to the chair corridor camera, Pierce's glove half off. "Themestamp bright. Unity isn't accuracy," she said. "Doctor." Vale raised her hand with the polite calm of a scientist about to break a toy. "Your stills are subject to variable GOP," she said. "Motion blur can create a simulacrum of contact. It is risky to conclude in a compressed environment." Anita nodded as if agreeing. "And the seam export, and the privilege escalation, and the attempt at 12:31 yesterday." She turned a page. "We have matching hashes. E13 equals E19. We have infosec alerts. We have a witness under seal. Anonymous," counsel said, pouncing, which is to say, convenient. A knock at the glass. Everyone turned. The night custodian stood outside with his cart, hat in his hands. He didn't enter. He pointed to the camera mounted in the corner and lifted a printout. Ava recognized the security request form. Risk's letterhead had bled a little in the rain. The case number was written in black marker. Beneath it, a time. Lingar, Sherlock. Anita wrote, "We moved to executive session for sealed testimony." Counsel frowned. Unnecessary. The chair, perhaps feeling the weight of glass and the weird formal hush of a man with a mop, said, "Granted." The room emptied of everyone who didn't sign paperwork for a living. The door hissed shut. The custodian left his cart in the hall and sat, hands on knees, eyes not on Pierce. He spoke with the careful cadence of someone reading a recipe he could recite in his sleep. "I saw the hand," he said. "I saw the head turn. I saw the room not look." "Were you threatened?" Anita asked. He glanced at Ava and then at the table, where the stamp sat like a small red moon. "Locker," he said. "Marker, not a mic kind of threat." The chair swallowed. "We'll secure your safety." "You can't," he said, with a softness that made the sentence land heavier than anger. "But you can stamp." He signed the addendum with the same careful letters. Anita stampet. The ink bled a little into the cheap paper. Even failing, it marked. Counsel looked bored to hide being rattled. "Doctor?" Vale watched the stamp like it insulted her degrees. The door opened again before anyone invited it. Kevin from InfoSec panted in the frame. "Mustache them." "Sorry," he said. "Not sorry. Facilities just flagged badge ID 417 inches. The server corridor, after his access was suspended." "Whose badge?" the chair asked. Kevin didn't look at Pierce when he said it. "N. Pierce." Counsel half rose. "That's an error. Doorcam says not," Kevin said, lifting his tablet. He turned the screen. The still showed a figure in navy at the card reader. Shoulder tense. Head turned to hide profile. The timestamp sat there with the indifferent honesty that numbers keep. "Lingzhou. Shaba. 5 minutes ago." "Doctor." Vale folded her hands. "Badge cloning is common," she said. "We must be careful." Kevin shrugged. "Maybe." Or he propped the door for a friend who looks like him, walks like him, and chose his suit. He held up a small evidence bag, where a broken security seal rested, dull and guilty. "Also this, found on the floor." Anita's pen scratched across the ledger. "27 server corridor cam. E28. Broken seal. Custodian. InfoSec." The stamp came down like a gavel for small things. Pierce spoke in the gentle tone he reserved for recruits and microphones. "I went near the corridor by mistake," he said. "Habit. I wanted to check the systems that keep this place alive." Kevin snorted, quiet and unkind. "The systems keep themselves alive. People break them." "Enough," the chair said, but it sounded tired, like a word that had worked overtime for a decade. Patel slipped in. Then, Ada Patel with her knot of hair, late and alert. She held a sheet with a judge's stamp on it. "Emergency preservation order," she said. Signed. She set it on the table like a clean blade. "Attempted access becomes contempt under this." Counsel began to object on principle, then saw the seal and saved his oxygen. "Dr. Pierce," Patel said, tone cordial as ice. "I'll need your phone." He laughed. "Cute. Or we can let a deputy collect it in the lobby," she said. "Your choice of optics." Pierce lifted his phone as if he were simply tidying the table and slid it toward her. She bagged it, sealed it, stamped it. E29. Quiet beat. Vent hum. A chair creaked. Leah's face hovered at the glass like a moon, then receded. She didn't raise her camera. She didn't need to. "Next steps." Anita said, voice unshaken by the room's small earthquakes. We deliver E25 through E29 to the DA. We notify the Board of Nursing that obstruction protections apply. Risk recommends suspension of Dr. Pierce's privileges pending outcome. Counsel looked at the ceiling like it had ever been merciful. Overreach. Pattern, Anita said. The chair rubbed his temple with 2 fingers. A gesture 1,000 administrators had invented independently. Privileges suspended, he said, voice empty of triumph. Effective immediately. Pierce's mouth did a thing that would look like grace on television. If I step aside, will you stop bleeding the institution? No, Ava said quietly. But it will stop me from bleeding. He finally looked at her. The look carried contempt and curiosity and something like admiration for a person who forgot to stay in her lane. You have a talent for theater, he said. Paper doesn't perform, she said. It stays. Doctor. Vale closed her laptop without hurry. Compression can make truth look like conjecture, she said to no one, and stood. Patel slid the preservation order back into her bag. And intent can make conjecture look like obstruction, she said to everyone. The meeting adjourned without ceremony. The aquarium emptied, chairs scraping on carpet with apologetic sounds. Outside, the custodian collected his cart. He looked at Ava, not asking for thanks and not needing denial. He lifted 2 fingers to his temple. Not a salute, not. Ava found a quiet corner by a window that made the river look oily and tired. The compass lay warm against her palm. The needle moved once and settled. Her phone vibrated with a single-line email from the board. Acknowledged. Your response will be entered into record. Her father texted a photo of 2 mugs on a kitchen counter, his house. His hands, coffee's on, doors open. The picture was blurry, slightly crooked. It made her throat tighten. Leah joined her with a paper cup and that dry half-smile that said she was hurting and not admitting it. They pulled his badge, she said. Security walked him through the lobby. He did the chin lift. The crowd didn't clap. Ava watched a gull ride the wind, then lose interest. The judge stamped a page. She said, that's today's miracle. Miracles happen, Leah said. Deadpan. In court, Ava said, and a laugh slid out of both of them like something they hadn't paid for. Leah sobered. My editor called, she said. I'm still suspended. Indefinite. They used the word trust and made it mean obedience. I'm sorry, Ava said. I knew the terms, Leah said, and I brought my own stamp. She lifted her phone, showed the lock screen, a photo of the safe deposit box. Envelopes, like bricks. She'd set it as a private joke and a public vow. Ava tapped the screen. Oxygen, she said. Unto paper burns, Leah said, or seals. Ava said. They stood silent for a long 30 seconds. The building breathed through vents. A maintenance cart squeaked, then didn't, somewhere distant. Someone laughed the wrong way at something not funny. Anita texted, DA wants your formal statement tomorrow. Ling Zhou. Lin Ling. Bring compass if you want it on the table. A beat. Kidding. Not kidding. Ava typed, it points either way. She slid the compass closed and slipped it back into her pocket. The brass felt heavier now, as if the needle had learned something from the morning. Outside, rain thickened, then thinned. The day couldn't decide what to be. On the mezzanine below, Kevin stopped by a vending machine and chose pretzels, then reconsidered and pressed the button for peanuts. The bag fell, the spiral hook squealing. He picked it up and looked at the ingredients like they were a code worth breaking. Tomorrow, Leah said. Tomorrow, Abai Choid. They walked the long corridor past framed photographs of ribbon cuttings and smiling teams. At the end, the glass door made a soft kiss of pressure when it opened. Street air blew in wet. A little dirty. Alive. On the sidewalk, a child in a yellow poncho stomped a puddle like an act of faith. Water fan. Parents scolded. The kid laughed without guilt. Ava took one step into the rain and let it find her face. The drop felt cold. Then ordinary, her phone buzzed once more. Unknown number. You think stamps save you. She didn't answer. She took a photo of the preservation order's stamp, instead raised imperfect, human, and sent it to Anita, to Leah, to herself. Then she put the phone away. She pressed her palm to the compass, felt the tiny tug of the needle aligning with something larger than her. The rain wrote lines across the day and kept writing. The building behind her kept breathing. Ahead, the crosswalk counted down from red to white. She stepped off the curb before the number reached 0. The morning came in slate. Clouds pressed low, flattening the skyline, making the river look like graphite smudged by a thumb. Ava walked into the DA's annex with a folder under her arm and the dented compass warm against her hip. Security want, sign-in log, visitor badge. Each small ritual, a hinge that swung her forward. Sloan Patel met her at the elevator, stainless mug in hand, hair pulled into that problem-solving knot. "We'll do the statement in Conference B," she said. Video on. Single camera. One take. Short. Ava said, "Short." Patel said, then softer. "True." Conference B had 4 chairs and a state seal that made the wall feel heavier. A clock ticked in quiet, unsentimental seconds. An investigator set a tripod, rolled a test recording, and clapped once for sync. Patel slid a form across the table, 1 page, dense with clauses and places for initials. "Sworn statement," she said. "Date at the top, time at the bottom. We'll attach the ledger index as Exhibit A." Ava printed the date and saw the grooves of yesterday's fight, as if the paper held them. She initialed where the flags told her to. The pen left clean lines. The camera light went red. Patel's opening was a single breath. "Please state your name, position, and the purpose of today's statement." "Ava Ellison," she said, "registered nurse, to describe events and the steps taken to secure records." Her voice sounded like itself, which surprised her. They walked the spine. Bay, corridor, logins, attempts, the janitor's affidavit, the broken seal in the server corridor, the preservation order and its stamp. Each noun landed without adjectives, and the room allowed it. Patel held up the dented brass. "For the record, can you identify this item?" "My father's compass," Ava said. "I kept it with me through the process. Not because I'm sentimental." She let herself blink the way you blink when something blows dust into your eye. "Because tools matter." Patel didn't smile. "For the record," she said, "the compass is not evidence." "I know," Ava said. "It's orientation." They finished in under 20 minutes. The investigator read back the time. Ava signed under a line that offered no poetry to soften its authority. The stamp came down with a sound that made her shoulders loosen. Patel gathered the forms. "We'll file charges before the end of day," she said. "Assault, tampering with records, attempted unlawful access. Counsel will bluster. Then we'll work." Ava nodded. Her phone buzzed. "A response from the Board of Nursing. Your submission has been accepted. Hearing scheduled." She didn't open the attachment yet. In the hall, Leah waited with a foam cup and eyes that asked without speaking. Patel passed by with a nod. "We'll need you later," she said. "Not as press. Citizen." Leah said, "I can live with that." They took the elevator down with a man carrying a banker's box full of red-stickered files. He hummed tunelessly. The light over the door flickered once and steadied. By noon, the hospital turned itself into rows and schedule. Security badges flashed red for the wrong people at the wrong doors. A printed memo went out under the chair's name, privileges suspended, policy reinforcement in effect. The language was neither brave nor cowardly. It was precise. The janitor ate a sandwich in the basement break room and watched a tiny TV made for kitchens. A news crawl mentioned a formal inquiry at Mercy. He chewed slowly, winced when his knee moved, and kept going. When he finished, he folded the wax paper with a care that looked like ritual and not like poverty. In administration, Patricia drafted her resignation in a 6-sentence paragraph. No flourish. She printed 2 copies, signed both, and carried one to the chair, one to her own empty desk. Her ring tapped the wood. She left her headset coiled like a sleeping snake. Evelyn Hart came back to clean out her office. Her box held 3 framed photos, a stapler, a book of poems someone had given her at a fundraiser. On the way out, she stopped at the donor wall and looked at the names engraved into brass. Her reflection doubled and warped in the plates. She watched it until it looked unrelated to her. In the lobby, a knot of people formed where a single person had stood too long. Words rose, pressed into each other, and lost edges. A volunteer stacked pamphlets about patient rights into a triangle on a table. Someone knocked it with a bag and apologized to no one. At 2, Ava sat across from 3 board members in a room that smelled faintly of lemon oil and old paper. State Board of Nursing Informal Review. The file on the table had her name on the tab. It looked thick. It didn't look accusatory. It looked hungry. Ms. Ellison, the chair said, "We're convened to discuss the complaint regarding potential disclosure of PHI during the transmission of internal materials." "Understood," Ava said. "You've submitted a statement." Another said, "You can speak to that. Or not." "I'll speak," Ava said. She put both palms on the wood, then took one off because it felt like she was pleading. "I redacted names. I withheld images with faces. I sent server logs and timestamps and metadata. The goal was preservation under threats. The risk was mine. You know we have to say this." The chair said, "Process is our God." "Then let me worship," Ava said. She slid a sleeve across. E24. The draft with her response. She pointed to the top corner. "The stamp is yours." They read, "It took longer than it should. Have it always did." Her phone stayed face down. The clock's second hand moved with the calm of a pulse you trust. At the risk of overstepping, the 3rd board member said at last, "You understand that if we find against you, we suspend for 30 to 90 days. "Yes," Ava said. "And you're willing to accept that," he said. "I'm willing to accept the consequence of using procedure when narrative failed," she said. Her voice didn't climb. "I don't accept silence." The chair lifted a palm that could have been blessing or pause. "We'll decide promptly," she said. "You'll receive a written order." Her mouth got thinner. "You should know our council received 3 anonymous complaints overnight." "From where?" "Anonymous is a location now," the chair said, weary. They dismissed her. She stood, thanked them, and left without rushing. In the hall she stopped and leaned her forehead against the cool of the wall, just long enough to feel the building's breath through her skin. Leah waited on a bench, legs fidgeting under a skirt that carried the day's creases. "How bad?" she asked. "Measurable," Ava said. Leah handed over a small square packet. "Insurance gave me this," she said. "Cobra paperwork. It sounds like a snake and bites like a bill." Ava exhaled a sound that might have been a laugh. "We're all paying," she said. "Then let's make it expensive enough to matter," Leah said. An hour before sunset, the DA's office released a statement with 3 nouns Ava had been waiting to hear in the same sentence. Assault, tampering, obstruction. The press release used the words like tools instead of like decorations. It had a case number at the top, a judge's name at the bottom, and a time stamped on the side. Pierce found a camera anyway. A sympathetic anchor gave him a couch and a cup. He spoke without sweating. "We're destroying good people over ambiguity," he said. "I've given my life to this work." The anchor cut to stock footage of white coats, then to a B-roll clip of a nurse scanning a wristband with gentle hands, then back to Pierce doing contrition like a man teaching a class. On social feeds, a truncated clip of Ava at the all-hands circulated without permission. She said, "We need to stop calling violence a lesson." People liked it for reasons that had nothing to do with her. A second clip landed a blow she didn't see coming. Ava's hallway apology to a patient's mother after a code months ago, recorded from behind ficus leaves. The caption put different nouns in her mouth. The sound of her voice apologizing for a ventilator's delay looked in cut down, like confession. Leah texted the full version within minutes, with timestamps and headers and a note. "Context saves lives." Ava didn't watch either clip. She cut an apple and threw the knife in the sink a little too hard. The blade clanged and came to rest with its edge under the faucet's slow drip. Her father called at dusk. "Your mother would have hated this part," he said. "What part?" "The waiting that doesn't change anything," he said. A cupboard door closed on his end. Dishes clicked. "But she would have liked your face at that table." "What table?" "All of 'em," he said. "Quieter you sit, louder you get." She pictured his kitchen, the checked towels, the plant he consistently forgot to water and somehow hadn't killed. "You all right?" she asked. "I made stew," he said. "Enough for 2 days. Freeze some," she said. "Come eat it," he said. "I will," she said, and meant it in a time frame that wasn't tonight. The order from the board arrived at 9:13 p.m., cutting clean through any pretense of sleep. Finding no violation of PHI privacy, identified within submitted materials. Advisory strong caution regarding future transmission. The last line landed like a hand on a shoulder instead of a shove. She sat on the edge of the bed with her toes, pressing the rug into waves and let herself breathe. Leah sent a single emoji, 2 hands, palms pressed. Then, "Tomorrow, you testify. Night before a harvest." Ava typed, "Not a harvest, a record." "Same tools," Leah wrote. Ava smiled without showing it to anyone. Morning broke with the kind of sky that wants to be a sheet. The courthouse steps held camera crews and pigeons with equal indifference. Inside, corridors filled with the music of shoes and the rustle of paper. Ava sat on a bench outside the hearing room, with the dented compass in her palm like a coin you rub. Not for luck, but for friction. Patel leaned over. "We'll be clean and fast. I have Vale on the stand. I'll run her through variable GOP until she admits it can't erase a stamp, and if she doesn't, then we'll use Kevin." Patel said, "He's a blunt instrument. Juries like blunt instruments that can spell hash." And a clerk opened the door. "People v. Pierce," he called. Part 42. They went in. Patel moved with the confidence of a woman who had slept 4 hours and believed in paper. The people call Ava Ellison. Ava took the stand, swore the oath, held the pen, set it down. The wood under her palm felt warmer than yesterday's. Patel asked only what mattered. Chain. Timestamps. Who. When. Where. No opinions. No adjectives without an invitation. Breckenridge tried to open a hole. "Miss Ellison, you dislike Dr. Pierce." "I dislike what he did," she said. "You set out to ruin him. I set out to preserve the record." He spread his hands. "You chose to leak internal documents to an outsider. I chose to mirror documents to protect them, and then deliver them to Risk and the DA. The outsider mirrored the mirror." She didn't look at Leah. She didn't have to. "I redacted names." He smiled without kindness. And how many times did you tell your story online? 0, she said. Breckenridge's smile stayed. But someone did. A murmur ran through the pews. The judge looked over his glasses. Mr. Breckenridge, he said. Questions. Nothing further, counsel said. The two least sincere words in the building. Patel called Anita, then Kevin. The chain of custody built itself in the room like scaffolding around a building people might want to save. Dr. Vale took her turn. She explained variable GOP, as if teaching math to people who had chosen poetry. Patel let her get comfortable. Then asked the one question that mattered. If a camera's compression muddies a single frame, she said, does it also muddy the server log, the badge reader, and the privilege escalation attempt? No, Dr. Vale said. It does not. Thank you, Patel said, and sat. The judge tapped his pen against the blotter once, twice. Hearing is continued, he said. The people's motion to preserve and the hospital's internal suspensions remain. We reconvene on the 23rd. It wasn't victory. It was paper moving. Outside, the weather had decided to be bright. The city looked briefly scrubbed. Reporters asked questions with question marks that felt like knives. Patel walked past without stopping. Leah kept her camera at her hip, not on her shoulder. The night custodian stood near the bottom step and adjusted the brim of a cap that wasn't quite a cap. He gave Ava a look that meant nothing on film and everything in person, recognition without claim. Her phone buzzed. A single text from the unknown number. You didn't burn. She powered the phone off and put it in her bag. They crossed the street with the tide of people who work and worry and carry folders. Leah half laughed. I'm starting a newsletter, she said. Independent. Member supported. The Ledger. End quote. Ava looked at her. Bless you and your stamp. I stole it from you, Leah said. Take the compass, too, Ava said, and then realized she meant it. Leah shook her head. Borrow, she said. You'll need it back. They turned onto a block where a mural covered a wall with faces no one could name by donation. A kid on a scooter scraped his wheel against concrete and laughed like friction was a friend. A woman came out of a dry cleaner's with hangers that chimed on each other like a cheap bell choir. In her pocket, the compass warmed under the sun. She stopped, opened it, and watched the naked needle settle on something both invisible and plain. The crack in the glass, now replaced by air, no longer split the light. The light moved through the absence and took its time. She closed the brass, pressed her thumb against the lid until she could feel her pulse beat once, twice, 3 times. She slid it back into her pocket and looked at the courthouse behind them. The hospital beyond that, the river pretending to be obedient. Ava took a breath. The breath took. Paper keeps. And the needle held north. In the end, this story isn't just about Ava, or a hospital, or a system that cracked. It's about what happens when silence becomes more dangerous than the truth. Every person reaches a point where staying quiet costs more than speaking up. Ava's fight reminds us that integrity isn't loud or glamorous. It's the steady heartbeat of someone who refuses to lose their compass, even when the map burns. As the saying goes, gold doesn't fear fire and neither should we. When it comes to standing for what's right, her journey is a mirror to many of us who've been told to stay in line, don't make trouble, or let it go. But justice begins in the small decisions: saving the document, keeping the timestamp, choosing honesty over comfort. It's a reminder that real change often starts quietly, with one person daring to act. When everyone else looks away, what you allow is what will continue, the saying goes, and Ava chose to stop allowing. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever stood against unfairness, or found courage in your own voice, Share your thoughts in the comments. Tell us what keeping your compass means to you. Tap like if Ava's resilience struck a chord, and subscribe for more stories that explore courage, conscience, and the quiet revolutions that shape us. May you find your own true north in a noisy world. Hold fast to it, and never doubt that even one steady voice can change the direction of a storm.